Welcome to the Run Out. I am Neil Barrett. He is the busiest man in lacrosse, Mr. Brandon Hooten. We have a lot to get into today. The Wings upset the Mammoth. The Thunderbirds and Nighthawks are looking pretty legit, and always something with the PLL top 50 going awry. But before we get into all of that, Brandon, how was your week, man?
It was awesome. Didn't watch many sports, unfortunately, because I was shopping for cards in person, which I've never done. It was a lot, kinda. Like when you're looking down and looking at cards and you look up, all of a sudden you're like, wow, your head starts hurting after a certain, time frame and but it was cool just seeing stuff that you'll never see, not ever again per se, but just stuff that you don't normally see. I saw a table with $20,000 cards in it and all types of stuff, but I kept up a little bit with what was happening in the NLL at least, so we can get into that momentarily. But yeah, overall, very successful weekend.
What did you see that was $20,000?
So this guy had a PSA Gem Mint 10 gold Jackson Dart downtown from Optic that was $25,000 list price. So who knows if he sold it? But that was only the most expensive one I saw. I walked away from the table pretty quick because I was like, this is clearly out of my bracket. Yeah. But I saw a couple $10,000, a couple fives in his case, and he was trying to buy high-end Bo Nix cards as well. So I was like, wow, it's cool, but it's also kind of man, it's cardboard at the same time.
Yeah.
Well, but yeah.
That feels a bit like prospecting. I get Jackson Dart looks like he could become a pretty good player, but when I'm it's $25,000 today.
Yep.
What are we talking about?
And I get it's like a case hit, and it's like an ultra case hit because it's a gold. So I get that part of it as well, and it's PSA 10. Who knows how many of those hit a 10? But it's just kind of one of those things that's just I can't imagine how, did he pull it? Did he buy it? How much did he buy it for? It's just crazy when you start thinking about all the money involved in it and stuff, and seeing cards that I have in a 9 that someone else has in a 10, and it's a 4 times price difference and stuff like that. I'm like, this is insane, but it was fun.
I am happy with my collection.
I think I might stick mostly to lacrosse because it's much more attainable.
Yeah. Even the. What was it? The Grand Amen? Is that the highest one that we've seen? 15?
That or the Schreiber was 15. I can't remember which one, but yeah.
Yeah. And it's okay, that's a proven. We know that one's just gonna hold or hopefully increase in value, but
well, that Brendan O'Neill $6,000 one's gonna look like a steal here if he continues to. Improve.
That is probably true. With that being said, let's move into the NLL week 3. This was the first full week of the season, 7 games featuring all 14 teams. We're not going to do every single game. We don't have time to do all 7 games. That's a lot to get into. So we picked the 4 that kind of had the most. I don't know. I guess it's debatable in week 3, especially when some of these teams were playing their first game. But the games that we felt had the most significance, I think. And we will start with your boys. And
you want to give love to Ottawa?
Ottawa's not one of the 4 games.
Hey,
we'll talk about Ottawa. We
got to at least give them a tip of the cap. A figurative.
We got. We'll talk about all of the games. We'll just only go into depth on a couple. But we'll start with your boys, who, unfortunately for you, lost 7-8 to the Philadelphia Wings in the Wings' first game. This was a very, very defensive game. I know that we talked a little bit about it last week. I think mostly off air. But Nick Damude was standing on his head out there.
Probably the best game he's ever played that I've seen.
Yeah, he made 59 saves, which is insane. I thought Warren Hills which was impressive in a different way because he also only allowed 2 goals, which was also insane. But the number of saves that Warren Hill had last week blew my mind, and then Nick Damude dropped 59 saves, and it was like, holy
53,
crap.
53.
Oh, my bad.
But Ryan Hartley did have, I think, 58 or 59 later on Sunday.
I think that's what I was getting confused. Right. No, you're right, because you're absolutely right, because I saw Damude's 53 and I was like, holy crap. And then Rylan Hartley dropped more, and it's just like,
and I mean, Dauber at 51. Like, this was a weekend for goalies. Like,
yeah, goalie play. I mean, the whole season so far, goalie play's been insane, but especially this weekend, it was crazy. So, anyway, that's kind of the precursor. I will let you go with the rest of it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said on 3 different shows last week, clear as day trap game. And then I find out on, must have been Thursday or Friday, Andrew Q was out. I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. Like, and then I'm still also confused. That can be kind of a tangent. I don't know what's going on with Brett Craig either defensively. He's been out for 2 games with an injury, allegedly. I would like to see him come back because I feel like he could have kind of put a stop to some of this, but I thought Matthew Pilato, the numbers don't reflect it. I thought he struggled a bit at the stripe against his first face-off guy, which, shout out to Nick Rowlett as well. I know the announcers kept getting his name wrong, but it's good to see him playing well. One time they called him Roulette. They had quite the time saying some names. They called Jalen Chaster, Chatfield, like all these different names, and I was like, we got to work on these.
That explains. I saw a tweet about the Rochester and San Diego Seals game where someone was specifically talking about the announcers and like having done prep and knowing names and stuff like that. And it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me because I only just now realized that I meant to watch this game today while I was at work and I didn't. And I was like, wait, I don't remember that happening. But that's because I have not yet actually watched this game all the way through. I've only really seen the highlights. So that is really funny.
Yeah, it was tough to listen to at times. I was like, his name's not Chatfield. It's Chaster. There's an S. You don't even have an S in the name. But, I mean, he had a goal called back, honestly. This is my one gripe with the officiating in this game was he had a goal called back that was clear as day a goal. So now we go back down to 3, and you lose a game by 1, and it's like, man, if they would have just kept that goal. But regardless, they had 60 shots on goal. They had their chances. Most notably, and they do this literally once a year at least, the last 3 years at least I've counted, where they try these like backdoor cuts and then they pass it from like 30 feet away across the field, if that makes sense. And they try to do like an alley-oop situation that just doesn't work. And they kind of kept going back to it. At times I felt like they were like throwing shots from like 40 feet away, almost the restraining line, just to like get a shot on net. And I'm like, that's not really doing anything. I still wonder when Owen Ron gets a chance to play forward for this team. 10 goals against CDB, great. 8 goals against Damude, no disrespect. Not very good. You have 60 shots on goal. You got to net a couple more. And again, talked about this a couple weeks now. 1 for 6 on the power play. Again, I know Andrew Q's a big part of the power play, but also they struggled with that in week 1. And they're putting their rookies, like they're letting them run the power play for some reason, which I think is a bit early on to do that. Unless their thought process is to get them in there early and just get the, jitters out of the way, I guess. I don't know what they're doing. But Will Malcolm again with a great game per usual. Dylan Ward stood on his head as well. Like, anytime you give up 8 goals, you should win that game. Like, it's, and like we talked about, there's a couple goalies this weekend that I'm going to give props to because it's like, I don't know what else you can really do. Like, yeah. But again, shout out to the Wings because, like I said, I think we're underestimating them in a lot of ways. Like, Eric Fennell's probably early on in the season my steal of the offseason. There's a long way to go, obviously, with that, but that signing apparently is just incredible. Also, Dalton Young with 4 apples. Holy cow. Like, I even said on Tuss Talk last week that Dalton Young is coming into his own in the box game, and then all of a sudden he does this. I was like, what? Of course it happens against my team. But regardless, not happy with the outcome. I'm happy that they at least made it close because for a while there I was like, it's going to be a 3-goal loss here. but they got to clean some stuff up. They dropped the ball. I mean, oh my goodness. I don't know how many times it's like hitting the plastic off the head and just ricocheting. So I'm hoping that this doesn't again happen after yet another bye week this week where we have to pick it up. I'd like to see them just come out swinging in 2 weeks and then we just go from there. But who knows? Hopefully Andrew Q's back and, we'll see about Brett Craig and stuff. But tons of roster movement so far for some reason.
Yeah, this one was the game that like watching even just the highlights, it was like, like we talked about it in preseason. Like, is Andrew Q like the one that's kind of making, even though I think the story, especially in that week 1 game, was Will Malcolm, but it seems almost like we were talking about that with Pat Cavanaugh during the PLL season about like how much he benefits from having the other guys on the field that kind of free up some space. And it just felt like maybe Andrew Q is that guy for this team. I did wonder if it gave you any solace to see some of your Denver guys do it. Like you said, Dalton Young and Brandon O'Neill, a few of those guys.
I mean, not really. I'm not rooting for them right now. I mean,
No,
I thought they kind of shut down Brendan for the most part, which that was what I was worried about. Like, he didn't shoot well at all. I mean, 1 goal and 11 shots on goal. Like, that's the thing is like, there's so many positives of this. It's like, if I told you the stats, you'd be like, oh, they won that game.
Yeah.
Dylan Ward, Brendan O'Neill with 1 point. Even like you look at some of the contributions, like, I mean, Thomas Vela had 3 points. Braden Saris had 2 points. Will Malcolm with a 5-point performance. Like, Chaster, this is only his second game full-time playing O. He had 3 points. Should have had 4 if you gave him that goal back. Like, there's enough of those that I'm like, you'd think we won the game. But then there were enough of those possessions where I just felt like the best way, I don't know if I said this on Twitter or on Discord, but it felt like they were just sped up, like from the jump, where it was like everything has to happen right now. We have to hurry, and it was like, yo, like just relax. And especially like after the Wings got their first 2, and then I can't remember if they tied it up or if they just got the first one. They did tie it up at 2. I was like, okay, see, now's the time to just relax. And then all of a sudden, 4 in a row like that from the Wings, and it's like, what are you guys doing? Like, just chill. And then it was like, as they were down trying to fight back, then there was enough possessions where they had literally were taking the ball and just chucking it at Damude. There was a couple he didn't even move. Like, credit to him, obviously, but 5-hole stick didn't move, hits him in the chest, hits him in the shoulder. Like, at least make the goalie move, which is my biggest problem with this offense this game, which is like there's no movement. And especially when you look at, now you have another bye week. Are they going to start slow off that bye week against Brett Dobson? Like, yeah. Dauber's a good goalie too, and I would honestly probably put him ahead of Damude in a lot of situations. Like, I don't want to see that happen again. But unfortunately, and again, this isn't just a this year problem, this is a multi-year problem. We're coming off bye weeks, they come out slow. And I don't really know what the answer is on that front. Like, especially, it's so Mammoth coded to beat a contender and lose to a bottom feeder. Like, that's just what I don't understand the highs and lows of that, but regardless.
Are you at all worried?
I'm not worried if that's what you're about to ask. It's game 2. I'm just frustrated because we lost to a bottom feeder.
Are you worried about the offense at all, is what I was going to say.
No. It'll come together. It's just, right now there's so many not new pieces, but just like new lineups that I think is tough. And especially when I'm sure they knew Andrew Q was out for more than the 2 days we knew, but it's like you played 1 game with him, and now you're asking someone else to come in and completely fill a role of a heavy touch role. And Ben McDonald hasn't played a lot for this team. He's been on the roster for 2 or 3 seasons, but he hasn't played a ton. Now you're asking him to play every game. Braden Saris, same thing. Like, there's just enough of those pieces. Even Dylan McIntosh, brand new. Like, so I think as the season goes, they'll have to gel, but it's just going to kind of be how those lineups shake out. I'm still waiting for Bucktooth to get a shot as well. Like, does that happen? Does Owen Ron play? Like, there's just so many of those. And also, again, like I mentioned, Jalen Chaster literally was a D guy in the NLL for, 3-4 years now? And now they're like, now you're a forward. So, granted, he's a bit of an O guy in the summer, so there's that. But this is who this team has been over time. I mean, Pat Coyle straight up told us in the presser a couple years ago, it was last year, that this isn't a team that's going to score 18 goals. Okay, that's fine. Especially when your defense is playing like this. Problem is, you got to put up 9. Like, we're not asking for 18, we're asking for 9. We're asking for 10. Like, so I'm not worried for the season because there's still 16 games, but it's just one of those things that's like, I'd like to see consistency. I don't want to see us beat a contender with Hall of Famers on the team and then go play a team people have as the bottom 2 or 3 teams, and then we do this. I just don't understand.
Yeah, I think that was the reason why I was asking, because in week 1 you hit 10 points, you hit 10 goals, and it's not the most impressive offense, although the offense certainly played better, but you also were like, okay, well, it's CDB, but then, then you're playing, I almost said playing Colorado. You are Colorado. Then you play Philly, and, one of the lower goalies will say, and yes, you're missing Andrew Q and everything, but, to only put up 7 points in that game is not a great sign, but to your point, it's early. They got time,
and they had their chances. Is the other part of this. That's why I'm not.
Yeah,
I know I sound upset. That's why I'm not overall upset about the loss per se, because it's like you went 1 for 6 on the power play. You clean that up and you get 2 of 6 or 3 of 6. You win the game. Like, they outshot Philly by what, 17? I think 17 shots on goal. Like, it's just like the Alex Simmons thing last week, where he went 0 for 16 or whatever it was. Like, that's not going to happen again. So it's like, as long as you clean those things up, like, it's fine. It's just, and I will say, it does kind of help them that, like, Vancouver's 1-1, Buffalo's 1-1. Someone else I believe is 1-1 as well. Like, some of these other teams that are higher up there are also kind of struggling to start the year. So, like, that's beneficial as well. But then you have these teams like Halifax that are 2-0.
Yeah.
Like, how does that affect it? Like, and especially part of me too is just because seeing what's happening in the NFL right now with the Patriots. They lost that week 1 game to the Raiders, and that's literally coming back to bite them now, seeding wise. Like, a game 4 months ago, whatever it was, and now it's coming back. So that's kind of fresh in my head of like, I hope this doesn't come back to bite us later on. But obviously that's a later season issue, I guess. Like,
all right, let's move on to the next game, which I think is probably the game of the weekend, which is Halifax beating the Buffalo Bandits 9-8 in overtime. This game, despite probably, ideally you probably want a couple more goals, but otherwise I think this game probably had just about everything. I was watching this game early, and the Bandits were just absolutely cruising, and I thought, oh, okay, now we've learned a little bit about Halifax here, and we've also learned a little bit about Buffalo here, and I had to go to a Christmas party, so I turned it off, and then we sat down at the Christmas party, and I was like, oh, I want to check out that game. I pulled it out, and I think at that point it was like 8-8, and I was like, wait, what happened? It looked like the Bandits were just going to cruise. Like I said, I missed some of it, but it looked like just an absolute depth issue. I mean, you got 3 goals out of Dane, you got 3 goals out of Josh Byrne, and then it was kind of like what we have talked about with Ottawa of like, all right, Jeff Teat got you what Jeff Teat gets you every time. Who's going to step up and help and convert that? But you got 2 guys that put up 6 of your 8 goals. Like, where's the rest of it?
And they put up 13 points between the 2 of them. The rest of the team put up, I think, 9 points combined. Like,
yeah,
it's just tough to win that way. And again, shout out to Warren Hill for playing outstanding, but Matt Vince was outstanding too. Like, and that's the tough part about these losses is like, I saw people kind of overreacting to it, and they're like freaking out because the Bandits lost, and I'm like, okay, but they gave up 9 goals. Like, they just needed a few more contributions from their guys not named Josh or Dane. At the end of the day, like, that's what it came down to. And you look at like Halifax, somehow they got outshot by, even though they won 5 more faceoffs. So like, was that a rebounding issue? Was that a hustle issue? Like, who knows? Like, there's a lot of things. And also, they were 1 for 4 on the power play, whereas Buffalo was 3 for 5. So, like Colorado, that's where it's like, you win, you get one more, it's tied. I mean, I guess they won. It doesn't matter. But I'm just saying, you improve on that. It's a bigger win for Halifax, potentially. And, like, Buffalo still got to feel pretty good about where they are because they lost more faceoffs. They had more shots on goal. They were good on power play. It just wasn't kind of their night, in my opinion, which we've seen from them. I mean, even last year, they had a down year by their standards, and it wasn't a problem come playoff time. So, like, but I do think, and we didn't do a great job, honestly, talking about this, but not only did they lose Chase and Cloutier, but they also lost, of course, I'm blanking on his name now.
This guy that was so important, I can't remember his name.
Oh, my goodness. I said his name on the drive home here, too. He's a defender. The Buffalo fans will know who I'm talking about. I can't think of his name right. Justin Martin, maybe? Is that his name? But regardless, like, I just think there's some bigger holes that I don't think were really addressed per se fully, and like they're kind of being addressed slowly as the new guys kind of filter in. But part of me does wonder, like, is Halifax going to be the team this year? But because they've had the years like this before, it's really hard for me to be like, yeah, they're so great. If Warren Hill's doing this, they're going to be great. How long does that, continue those? It's kind of where I'm leading.
Yeah, like you said last week, he's streaky, and
yeah.
I was thinking it when you were saying it, but then I forgot to actually say it. Is that that felt like such an appropriate like way to frame Warren Hill, is that like when he is on, and he has been on this season. But does he hit a patch where he is no longer on? That being said, I mean, right now he's got to be. Admittedly, not everyone has played more than one game even yet, but you got to think he's in the front runner at goalie of the year. 2 games into the season for whatever that counts. But like he's been that good so far. I guess the question is kind of what you're alluding to, though, is Halifax has been here before. Halifax has been this good, and then by the time the playoffs roll around, they're not quite that team anymore. Though I think this is an example of one of those games that they might have just kind of folded up and looked to the next week or whatever previously, and they didn't. Even when it looked to all the world that they were going to just get rolled over on, and they didn't, and they fought back and won. So, if you're Rowan, I would think you got to be really stoked about what you're seeing from this team.
Yep.
They seem to be able, like you said, Matt Vince was just as good as Warren Hill was, and you win that game. And it's one of those games that it feels like you don't necessarily look at that offense and say, oh, they only put up 9 goals. You're like, yeah, I mean, they put up 9 goals. They did what they needed to do to win. So
yep.
Let's move on to the third game from our list, and that is the game that I believe made me an NLL Genius, right? That's what we decided last week. The Georgia Swarm beat the Oshawa Firewolves 9-5. I believe the deal was that I would be a genius if they won by 3 or more.
Yes. The good news is that you have enough bad takes in the NLL that it's going to counteract it.
That might be fair. Although I don't know that I'd say they're takes. They're just statements. But yeah,
I'll give you props though. I didn't think they would have. It wasn't that I was shocked they won per se, but I didn't think they were going to win by 4.
Yeah,
I kind of assumed Oshawa would kind of come back from their performance the week prior and use it as motivation. But man.
And so that was my kind of question about this game, was like how good is Oshawa, and how good are the teams that they've played. It feels like that whole lower end is like I don't know who's half decent, who's pretty bad, because they all just kind of like crap the bed all at the same time.
And that's why we can go back and look at the clips. That's why I said early on, like, people are overhyping Oshawa and Ottawa. And I was like, I don't understand what they're seeing that's making them go, hey, this is a Like, I saw people putting Oshawa in their top 5. And, like, granted, there's tons of time for that to happen, but they haven't looked like anywhere near a top 5 team so far. And I'm just like, I don't understand. Like, yes, they have some dudes. They have some certified ballers, but, like, they can't seem to put it together for whatever reason, you know, and especially, like, Lyle Thompson only had 1 goal in this game, like, but he had 3 assists. And it's like, you have enough of those types of players on Georgia, I think, that it's just kind of like, yeah, I probably should have seen something like this coming, but still, it's still mind-blowing to be like a 4-goal win. Like, after 2 goals last week for Oshawa and now 5 this week, like, and they killed the faceoff stripe as well. They won shots on goal battle, but again, look at the power plays, 0 for 5. That's 3 games we've talked about now where one of them was on the winning side of it, but the other 2 lost the game, and a big part of it was power plays. They just couldn't convert at all.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've seen Oshawa in 3 games now. They put up 8 points in 1, 2 points in game 2, and 5 in game 3.
That's 5 a game.
Oh, that's fair. Nice.
That's
nice
what Warren
math.
Hill. That's what Warren Hill's giving up per game, which is also insane. But
what do we think the issue is with this Oshawa offense? Like you said, they've got ballers. It's not a talent issue. Is it a talent in the right places issue, or is it, you know, a scheme, or like what are we looking at here? Because while I agree with you that putting them as you know, a top 5 team was maybe a bit overzealous, you look at the roster and it's like, I mean, I kind of get where they're coming from with that. Top 5 might have been a little high, but like, you know, Doug Jamieson was your leading assist getter in this game.
Was he really?
Tied for it. Yeah.
Holy cow, he was. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's like, what are we doing?
I admittedly, I didn't get to watch much of this game, but my only thought is it has to be a shot placement issue. They're getting shots. I mean, Simmons had 13 by himself. Dyson had 10. You know, Ethan Walker had 6. Ty Kurtz had 9, which was much improved from the week prior.
Yeah.
Like, they're getting shots. I just don't. They're not going in. And, like, again, they played Dobson, who's a great goalie. They played Nick Rose week 1, who's a great goalie. They played Warren Hill, who was hot. Like, I'm not saying they're playing, like, you know, bottom of the league goalies by any means, but, like, 5 goals a game. I don't know. It's tough. And again, when you go 0 for 5 on the power play, give me 1, give me 2, something. And on top of that, you outshoot them by, what is that, 7 shots, 8 shots. You win 8 more faceoffs. Like, there's just enough of those issues right now with them that I'm just like, and we always say in lacrosse, you can't really win games if you don't score in a quarter. In that opening quarter, they get outscored 1-0. And to their credit, Georgia scored with, like, I think 6 seconds left or whatever in the first. So it was close to being a 0-0 quarter. But, like, that can't happen. And I don't know. It's, like you said, they have the talent that should be there, but, like, now you go into a week where they have to play Vancouver. They have to play CDB. If you're only putting up 5 against some of these teams, dude, good luck against Christian. Like,
yeah. No, I'm in my own head. I mean, I'm not frustrated because I'm not an Oshawa fan, but like I agree with the frustration that you're expressing of like, it just doesn't make sense. It's not like you can see why. It's like you said, they have the talent, they're getting the shots, they're doing what they should be doing. I don't even want to say they can't hit the broadside of the barn because they're putting shots on goal. It's just like not falling, I guess. You know, like I don't.
Yep.
and I don't know what the answer is. A lot of times you can be like, oh, they've got to shoot more, they've got to do this more, they've got to do that, and it's like you said, they're kind of doing everything. It's just not working.
Yeah,
at all.
And again, they're a good defensive team as well, and Dougie's playing out of his mind too. Like, yeah, because this is solely on the offense, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, and like you said, holding a team under 10 gives you the opportunity to win a game if you're doing what you need to do on the other end. They just aren't, and it's a weird season in that it feels like this has happened a lot this year, where like a team has held someone under 10, under 9, under 8, and then loses the game because they can't put it in the net themselves. So definitely a little bit of an interesting thing there, but let's move on to the fourth kind of bigger game, a new team that we haven't seen that was not a close game, where the Rochester Nighthawks beat the San Diego Seals 15-7 after crossing the entire country to do so. This game, it wasn't very pretty. It started a little bit. I was like, oh, we might have something here, and then it went off the rails pretty quick.
I told folks, like, if I didn't have a team in the league, dog, I'd be all in. I'm already all in on Rochester.
Are you an NLL Genius? Is that what we're saying?
Dude, I mean, it's not that I'm a genius, because like anyone with working eyes can look at the roster and say, well, that's an insane roster. But some of these people, man, that I'm not high on Rochester. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, and I know that they played San Diego, who I think people are slightly overrating, but Chris Riglieri is a good goalie. Like, and you made them switch off goalies, not once, not twice. I don't even know how many times. At the end of it, it felt like every time I looked up, it was a new goalie in there. But I mean, they just got contributions from like everybody. I mean, you get 9 points from Thomas McConvey, 6 from Connor Fields, 9 from Ryan Lanchberry, 7 from Ryan Smith. I didn't even see Zed didn't put up any points. I don't know if he was going out the front door or the back door most of the game, but I mean, I'm glad he's back, obviously. But yeah, just pure domination, start to finish. And I mean,
from what I saw, Zed was I'm gonna ask the question rather than assuming and making myself stupid. Front door means essentially offense. Back door means essentially defense. Okay.
Yeah.
Front door then. He was on almost every. I saw that he, because I didn't watch this game live. I watched it today at work. This game I did actually watch. And I saw that he didn't contribute anything statistically speaking. And I kind of expected that meant he was probably lower down the pecking order. He wasn't. That dude was handling the ball almost every single offensive possession. He was involved in everything. He just wasn't the guy making the assist. He wasn't the guy making the goal, but he was there. And first of all, we just have to one, it's so good to see him on the floor doing what he loves, period, after that kind of an injury. 2, I still can't believe that like he's already on the floor. Like it
feels fast, but it is kind of on pace with what we've been seeing from modern day Achilles injuries.
Yeah, no, and I don't remember exactly when the injury was. I think it was in 2025.
It was like February or something like that.
Okay, that's
early
what
February.
That's what I was kind of remembering, was like early in 2025. And so if you think about it, it's like, yeah, I mean, it's been 10 months. Like it makes sense, but also it just still feels so fast. I'm like, man, I cannot believe that he's back on the floor already. So it was impressive. But yeah, no, he was handling the ball a lot. He was, we talk a lot in field, and I don't know that it's necessarily the same thing in box, but in field, we talk about like a primary initiator, a guy that dodges, that maybe doesn't get the assist numbers or score goals or something, but he's that guy that basically starts the rotation. And I felt like he was playing sort of a similar role, although again, it's very different in box. It's not the same kind of thing, but He was carrying the ball that much, and so even though he's not statistically contributing, like you said, they were getting contributions from everybody, from all over the field. I thought
the funny thing is people are going to use the lack of scoring against him, and they're going to try to say that he's not a big part of the offense and he's not the same. And I'm like, just wait. He's going to have games where he pops off, and he's going to have games like this where like he's doing enough with his gravity that it's not really an issue. Like, people don't understand that, like, when you have a big body like that, if he's clearing out defenders, if we counted screen assists, I'm sure he'd have a bunch of assists in this game. Like,
yeah, I don't know. I wasn't paying that close attention, but you may very well be right that was the case. But yeah, I mean, they just anytime San Diego got any kind of momentum, they scored, back-to-back goals or whatever. They actually had a run of 4 goals in a row, and about the time you were thinking, oh, maybe they'll get back into this, Rochester scored 6.
Yep.
And it was like, oh, never mind. Cool. I guess we're done. Jake Pacino looked good, your boy.
My other boy, Pat Cav, looked good too.
I was going to get to him. I was watching that game and I was thinking, look, you and I have talked, I'm not the biggest Pat Cav fan. Hey, watching him, no, let me say my piece, because it's not a hate thing this time. But no, I watching him in this game, I thought everything that made him kind of who he was, especially at Notre Dame, the like toughness, the riding hard, all of that stuff. You know how rare it is that I see someone fight for a ground ball. Like, I think one of the things that's always kind of put me off is too hard, because like I have no ill will towards NLL or box or anything, but one of the things I think that's kept me from being like all in on it is kind of the idea, and I understand it on like the philosophical level, but the idea of like how often you see someone like take a shot and it doesn't go in, it misses or whatever, and guys are already like headed towards the bench, and getting off the field, and there's very little like fighting for ground balls and loose possessions and stuff. And watching Pat Cav, I was like, oh, I could enjoy this player in this setting. The way he was fighting for loose balls and winning balls back after they had after Rochester picked him out, I was like, man, dude, this is impressive. And then the 2 goals he had were fun. I don't guess I even realized that it was only his second game, that he only played 1 game last year. I think in my head he played a handful. I knew he didn't play a ton, but I thought he had played a handful last year. And all of the announcers were talking about like how much better he looked. Though it is interesting to see, him have a game like that and realize he wasn't gonna play today, or not today. I watched it today. He wasn't gonna play in that game until they had someone injured, and he got activated for the game, and then not only did he play, but he was like, I know they don't really do lines, but he was like one of the main guys on the offense. I don't want to say he was a first liner, but and then of course, he played so well, and I just wondered, like, I wonder if that was enough to Lord, what am I trying to say? If that was enough to get him into that roster consistently.
Well, he was on the PUP list though, so he may have just had an injury or something that was going on.
Was he?
Initially, okay. At least that's why he missed week 1. I mean, it could have been roster manipulation. Who knows? But I'm just saying he was on that list. So, but I know, like, I think San Diego missed 2 players, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I know they had
Corey
2
Small
guys.
and someone else. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe obviously I want to see him play. I want to see Chris play at some point too. But I think it's gonna be tougher for him, especially because he's not been around. Like Pat at least was around the game a little bit last year, to where it's like, okay, you kind of know what you're expecting. But I think Chris is gonna have a bit of a tougher time getting to that point this year. But I think it would be cool if they both play at some point.
I gotta say, your boy Connor Robinson wearing 96. Every single time I saw him on the floor, I thought it was Chris Kavanagh. Every single time. Even like late in the fourth quarter, where I have repeatedly been like, no, that's Connor Robinson. I would look up and see 96 and be like, oh, it's Chris. Nope, no, it's not. Not at all.
Don't remind me about C-Rob. I don't want to talk about that.
I don't want to talk about it. If it makes you feel any better, he just had the one goal.
I don't care. I saw a photo of him and Zed after the game, and I'm like, oh, this sucks.
It sucks.
Like, those dudes want us a chip. Like, the problem is, every player that has won my team a championship, NBA, NFL, NHL, NLL, like, I have a soft spot for. And then I see them on other teams, and I'm like, oh, this sucks. Even though I understand why moves are made and the business of it all, it's still just like, man, like, that sucks. But
still got Joker.
I mean, yeah, that's awesome. But
we'll see.
I'm not complaining about my other sports. Look, my team, number 1 in the NFL. Nuggets are looking good. Avs are like best team in the NHL. I'm not complaining. But when I see some of my NLLers on other teams, I'm like, man, what a time that was when they were over here. But
that time we had. Oh, jeez. So I feel like I want to keep talking about it, but I'm like, I think we kind of hit it all. I did see. Never mind. We don't need to talk about that. That was dumb. Never mind. Let's move on to the other 3 games. Like I said, I told you this. I don't know if I've actually mentioned it so far on this podcast. The other 3 games we won't go as deep into, but I have one question for each game for you. The first game of the weekend was Ottawa versus Saskatchewan. Ottawa ran out with an 11-8 victory. I think it was even more lopsided than that. I that's another game that I watched. I did actually watch that one live. And I think 11-8 doesn't really do what Ottawa did in that game justice. Jeff Teat dropped 9 points, and Ottawa scored 6 unanswered goals in the fourth quarter to stun the Rush and defend their home turf. I wondered if you feel like this win said more about Ottawa or Saskatchewan for this game.
Ottawa, because Saskatchewan, I think, just had a meltdown in the fourth quarter, which is going to happen from time to time. Like, I'm more impressed with Ottawa coming back because they were down 3 going into the fourth, which is, you're kind of already feeling like, this might be over. And then to rattle off 6 of them, especially like with Teat going with the natural hat trick, that's what you want to see, especially when we've talked about, they're going to have big performances and then some. And I felt like they did that for the most part. Like, I mean, you mentioned Teat, but obviously Hellier had 8 points. O'Connor had 5 points, all assists, but still, Sundown had 2 points. Like, Sam Firth had 2 points, which, shout out, former Mammoth, won us a chip too, Sam Firth. Anyway.
You guys just got every guys that all over the league, don't you?
Yep. Anyway, yeah, I think it says more about Ottawa. But again, they're gonna have to do a lot more to show me that they're legit. And I think Saskatchewan's just had a bad game. Unfortunately, a really bad quarter. They were up 8-5. Like, you should have won that game 10 times out of 10. So, lucky for them, I think they play a Georgia team that, granted, they won last week. I think it's going to be a bit of a better matchup for them. But yeah, it's something that's kind of like, man, they should have had that one kind of sealed like early in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I don't feel like you're wrong necessarily, but I wonder about Ottawa played well for sure, but like you said, Saskatchewan goes into that fourth quarter up 3, and you're playing a team that I feel like everyone is going to go into Ottawa and feel like they can put points on the board, and to not get more than 8 goals worries me. I think ultimately you're probably right that it was a bad fourth quarter, and that will happen from time to time. I wonder if that's kind of like the cracks around the foundation of, like, when it gets going, can we get those? Can we get the points that we need? I guess. The next game was Toronto versus Calgary. Toronto won 11-10, opening their newly renovated, I guess, arena in Hamilton, erasing a late deficit thanks to a Chris Bushi hat trick and game winner. My question for you is this: they played what now appears to not be an amazing Oshawa to a 1-goal game, and then beat a Calgary team that I think most of us don't expect to win a ton of games, even though I think at least you and I have maybe come around on the team that they have and kind of maybe the future of that franchise. My question for you is Toronto a playoff team? Because I think you could make the argument that they've played, excluding maybe themselves, 2 of the worst teams in the league and have a 1-goal loss and a 1-goal win.
I mean, like I said early on, I think that they are fighting for a playoff spot, but they're not a certified playoff team to me, which I said that before they played a game. Like, they're young. They just have too many young players, but when you're trying to make the playoffs and like that's, you need some more cohesion, I think was probably the best word for it. And I just think you look at like throughout this game, I mean, they had the 1 goal in the first, but then they had really 3 solid quarters. They matched Calgary in second and third, and they killed them in the fourth. Like, that's the type of stuff that you want to see from a young team, and now it's just building on that. Plus, once you get TD Erlin back at the stripe, is this really an issue? Probably not. And they're another team, 0 for 4 on the power play. You get 1 or 2 of those, all of a sudden it's a 2 or 3 goal win. So they have enough of those little things that like you clean that up and you're good to go, I think. But even in an 11-10 game, like Aiden Walsh only giving up 11, I think is a good sign for Calgary. Obviously we'd like that to drop probably, but solid. And then Nick Rose with 38 saves, 10 goals as well. Like, to me, 10 goals, I'm fine with it. Like, as long as your offense is doing what they're supposed to do, that's a good number right there.
Yeah, and to your point, I think Toronto should be a much better team at the end of the season than they are at the beginning of the season, just like you said, because of how young they are, because they still have a few guys out. TD Erlin, I'm not necessarily expecting it, but I mean, if they can get Tom Schreiber back, before the end of the season, I mean, they could be a pretty significantly improved team between now and the end of the season. So I feel like I'm out a little bit on their playoff odds, but like you said, there's still plenty of time for them to change. This is only game 2 for them, so there's time for them to get back into. So the last game of the week for us to discuss was Vancouver versus Las Vegas. Las Vegas' first time on the floor with the new look squad. Vancouver wins 15-9, largely behind Keegan Ball, who exploded for 8 points as the Warriors offense just absolutely ran wild. Honestly, 15-9 kind of flatters Vegas a little bit. They scored a decent chunk of those goals after Vancouver kind of let up a little bit. And really exposed that Las Vegas defense. And my question for you about this game is they didn't even have Chase Frazier in this game. The offense looked decent, maybe, is how you would phrase it, but how much is that defense really going to cost them this season?
I don't know how many times I had to say it in the offseason. Like, no disrespect to them, but they didn't address that. I said it in Discord. I said it on Twitter. I said it everywhere. Like, if the game was purely offense, it was a half-court situation, 3-on-3, 5-on-5 half-court, like, yeah, they're going to kill most of the league. But when you got to play both ways, like, you're not set up for success. Landon Kell's giving up 10 goals and only saving 15 shots. You're not winning. And again, you're playing again
early, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he gave up 10 goals. I believe Alex Buquet gave up 5 as well. Yeah, like, and this isn't me hating on Landon Kells. Like, he's a young guy. I think he'll come into his own at some point. But I do think there's something to be said for year after year with this team. The back end, between the defense and the goalie, have struggled. And so I don't really care how many goals you put up. Obviously, it was only 8 goals in this game, or 9 goals. But even if you put up, I mean, even if, think about this, even if they put up 14 goals, they still lose. That's another 6 goals. Like, so, not to be like, I told you so, but like this is going to be their issue all season long. They went 21 for 28 at the faceoff stripe. 9 goals off that? Come on. 1 for 5 power play again. And this is a game when Vancouver went 1 for 6. Imagine if Vancouver nets 2 or 3 more of those, and now they score 18 on your head. Like, they just have so many questions on the back end that I would assume they're gonna try and make a move for somebody at the trade deadline. They're gonna have to, in my opinion, if they want to be taken seriously. Granted, they didn't have Chase Fraser, so maybe that changes the score a little bit. But we all saw this coming, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, maybe a little bit. I think the one kind of benefit of the doubt that I want to give them is that they are a vastly different team than they were last year. This is their first time on the floor. Like you said, they're missing Chase Fraser, and they're going against CDB and this team that most people are expecting is going to be involved in some manner in the championship conversation. So not the easiest first test. That being said, they did not look good. Like I said, Landon Kells got chased 3 minutes into the second half. He played 33 minutes. So, not a great start from him. To your point, he's young, and I don't know that a ton of it was on him, although, I don't know. How do you say the replacement's name?
Alex Buquet. That's how I say it.
Okay. I was going to say Book.
No, I'm pretty sure it's Buquet. He played in Colorado for a minute. I should know, but
you should. But he played nearly the entire second half and gave up 5 goals. And yes, you can probably say that Vancouver, stopped pushing a little bit, but he gave up 5 goals and had 14 saves. Landon Kells had 15 saves and gave up 10 goals. So, they've got some things to figure out. I want to say that they'll be better than that, but it doesn't look like much better at all. So, before we move off of the NLL, excuse me, let's look ahead to week 4. We have 4 games this week. Vancouver plays Oshawa, Philadelphia plays Rochester, Georgia plays Saskatchewan, and Ottawa plays Las Vegas. What are you looking ahead to on this week?
The only one I'm really looking forward to is just that Ottawa Vegas game. The rest of them kind of seem like heavy hitters are going to come out and win pretty easily based on what we've seen. Does that mean that that Georgia, Philly, or Oshawa are like down for the count and have no chance? No. But to me, it's like Oshawa hasn't given me a reason to believe in them too much. Philly, even in a win, 8 goals. If they can get up higher, maybe, but like they're playing a red hot Rochester team, and we saw what Ryan Hartley just did. Ridiculous. Really, I guess for Georgia, Sask didn't play too well last week, so maybe that helps them. But like, I want to see if Ottawa is gonna build on what they did against Saskatchewan, or if Vegas kind of bounces back and is like, hey, that was just a week 1 fluke that happened. Because if that's the case, maybe they end up being better early on in the season. But those are just 2 teams that I just have a lot of questions about that I'm excited to see how they match up with each other.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's the most intriguing matchup because I think there's a lot of questions about both teams that playing each other can at least potentially start to answer. I agree with you on Vancouver, Oshawa, and Philadelphia, Rochester. Those feel like on paper relatively easy wins for Vancouver and Rochester. I'm I'm slightly intrigued, excuse me, to see what Philadelphia looks like against Rochester, and see, was last week a fluke? Was last week indicative of what the rest of the season will look? Even if they don't necessarily win, but if they play Rochester really well, maybe they are a better team than we thought. I just don't really expect them to. I am really kind of interested in Georgia Saskatchewan though. I feel like Georgia has played really really well everywhere. I don't know that you would necessarily say that any part of them has been phenomenal. Although, maybe Brett Dobson last week, would we say 51 saves? Maybe is the exception to that. But I don't think that game surprises me either way. If Georgia wins, it's like, okay, they are maybe better than we thought. If Saskatchewan wins, it's like, okay, maybe they are the team that we saw earlier this year. So I'm intrigued, but I don't know that I feel like it necessarily. Maybe if Georgia or Saskatchewan blows out the other one, maybe that tells us something. But barring that, it kind of feels like maybe it's just a game that honestly might leave us with more questions than answers anyway. So, but yeah, the Ottawa Vegas one I think is really really intriguing, and which team's going to show up. So, with that all being said, let's move over to a little bit of the PLL. We are in the middle of the flirting period now, quote unquote. That's their words, not mine. I find that phrase a little bit creepy, but the first player movement window opens Wednesday. I imagine a decent chunk of deals will get done, although there is another player movement window after the championship series. So if some guys are still under contract, that could happen. There have been some rumors about some, but I'm going to stick to only 3 of the ones that have been actually announced by the teams. Owen Grant earlier today re-signed with the Cannons through 2027. Troy Ray re-signed with the Chaos yesterday or the day before. I can't remember exactly when, through 2028, which was kind of surprising to me, just the length. I thought maybe he was getting a little older, but no, certainly older than Owen Grant, right?
I couldn't tell you, honestly. I don't know.
I feel like Owen Grant just came out of Delaware a couple years ago. I feel like Troy Ray came out of Albany around the time of Lyle and maybe more like Connor Fields, but either way. And then one that surprised me, although you said you had known about it, was Maryland Whipsnakes midfielder Ryan Ogevin being placed on the holdout list, which was interesting to me just because I don't know why. I don't know if he, as far as I know, he's a lacrosse player. So like, I don't know. It seemed weird. He doesn't play in the NLL that I'm aware of. So I don't know. It seemed a little interesting, but I guess maybe not the most surprising thing. I don't know that he's really fit in with the Whipsnakes, as well as he fit with the Archers, and as well as he probably hoped. So, those are the 3 that I thought were somewhat notable. I don't know if you have thoughts.
No, I'm more so just waiting for the actual free agency to kind of start, especially because with Champ Series, you're going to see a lot of guys get signed to just Champ Series contracts, which I'm interested to see how that works. Like, that's why like the entire Outlaws Champ Series roster is going to be, hey, who wants to play and can be there for 2 weekends, pretty much. Like, so. Yeah, I was going to say especially for you as a Denver fan, and especially considering how many guys they're going to be without, it's going to be interesting to see that specifically. Even though I don't think that you guys are, you guys are far from the only one. I think Carolina might have more positions open than even you guys do. Although they're not going to be as high level players as, Brennan and Pat and, all the guys that you guys have missing out. But it's going to be interesting because everybody's got, Jeff Teet's not going to be with Atlas, and who's the 4th team that I can see their colors? Redwoods. Thank you.
Woods, they're gonna be, I think, in a similar position. Although now that I'm thinking about it,
they have a lot of guys that are still going to play.
Yeah, I think you might be right too, actually, because Dylan Malloy will be there. They're gonna miss Chris Kavanaugh. I don't think they're gonna miss Andrew McAdory.
No, he's not playing NLL, so as long as he's able to be there.
Okay, so yeah.
This is assuming that they can be there. I don't. With day jobs, I'm sure it's going to be tough anyway, but assuming they can make it, I think he can play.
Yeah. So they might be the one kind of exception to that. Everyone else is going to be looking to sign some guys up. I'd imagine, speaking of Carolina, I'd imagine a guy like Jackson Iker may not be there, save some of his, military getting out of things for the summer and the real season. So, just something to keep an eye on. Like I said, it opens Wednesday. So depending on when you're listening to this, it may have already opened. There might have already been some interesting moves. I've been a little bummed so far. There hasn't been any kind of leaks, but we'll see what happens over the next couple of days. The other big PLL story is the top 50, and I normally ignore it. For the most part, I know you feel at least somewhat similar, maybe not these exact words, but it is 98% engagement fodder. I don't even want to say engagement bait. That sounds dumb. All social media is engagement bait. Like, that's the whole reason that it's there. But like, this is specifically for fodder, for engagement, and that's fine. Every league does it. The NLL does the top 100 every year. Like, everybody's trying to get you to interact with them during their offseason. It's fine. It's not that big of a deal. I also think that defenders are underrated, attackmen are overrated, and a lot of this has to do with who you were rather than who you are this season. I think Rob Pennell being at number 50 is pretty evident of that. So I largely try to ignore it. I do feel like every so often, every couple of years, we get some pretty egregious things. Dane Smith in 2023 being ranked the 43rd best player. I was looking at it before we got on the show. That year, he finished with the same number of points as Michael Sowers, despite playing 2 less games. Dane Smith was 43rd on the list. Michael Sowers was number 2. Dane Smith plays midfield. I felt like that one was pretty egregious. I also have a whole rant about 2021 Miles Jones that I will spare you and our listeners from. 2021 Miles Jones had one of the best PLL midfield years ever and was 14th on that list behind Brian Costabile and Zach Currier and Tom Schreiber. You can say Zach Currier should have been, that's fine. They play the position 2 totally different ways. It's so hard to directly compare them. Zach Currier was midfielder of the year that year. That's fine. But especially Brian Cosby, I was like, are you freaking kidding me? But I felt like the one that was pretty egregious this year was CJ Kirst at 11, having played only in 4 games, and 2 of those he only had 1 point across 2 of them. Felt like pretty ridiculous behind. He's ahead of Chris Kavanaugh, the rookie of the year, who was top 5 in points and led his team to the semifinals, despite having been in a rebuilding year. And CJ Kirst is ahead of him, even though his team was 1-5 with him, including the playoffs this year. So I felt like that was going to be the more egregious thing, but it looks like we might be missing a pretty high player from the top 50 completely. Hard to comment on that completely until the actual list comes out, but feels a little crazy.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add or subtract. I don't really care about. To me, this is kind of like power rankings to a degree, where it's like I'm just not invested personally. Like, I know who won the awards. I know who was good in my book. I said a couple of times I thought Dobson probably should have been in MVP talks, and he was 22 on this list. So, like, clearly I don't agree with some things, but like it's these guys are playing everybody else, so maybe they have some insight that they feel is a little bit different. But I don't know. It's fun to kind of see where their head's at for sure. But I'm just not invested in it, I guess.
Yeah, that's something that I try to be. I do think being a top 5 guy is pretty good, and obviously being number 1 is pretty good. Just because I think to be top 5, you have to be so like universally understood as having been at that level, that it matters. That being said, if Blaze Reardon is top 5 this year, that's going to be insane. But we'll see. Outside of that, though, I don't really pay attention. Like I said, unless it feels pretty egregious. Again, Dane Smith being 43 in 2023 is insane. And I'll put a tinfoil hat on for a minute and say Dane Smith didn't play again after that year. I know money, and there were way more important things and bigger things that would have caused him to not play. But like we talked about, I think it was last week, maybe the week before, it's a lot easier when you have all of these things that you're like, oh, I can make a little bit more money. I can stay at home. I can travel less. I can be, more with my family. And at the same time, I'm looking at this and being like, they don't even respect me as a player. It just makes it all the easier. Again, I'm not saying that he left because he was ranked 43rd on some stupid top 50 list, but didn't help. That's for sure. So anyway, enough about the stupid top 50. I forgot what I was saying. I think my brain is more mad than my mouth is. So.
Appears so.
Last little bit of news is from the WLL, where Matty Buss took over the California Palms head coaching GM role from Adam Sear, who is now the new Australia men's sixes coach, getting ready for the Olympics in 2 years. Duke grad, 2025 U.S. Lacrosse Coach of the Year, with ties to the California region. Interesting to see that because it's such an abnormal thing for men's lacrosse, because we don't have a lot of West Coast lacrosse, especially at the college level. But they do in women's. There's a whole Pac-12 division over there. So interesting to see that and how that affects them being someone on the West Coast coaching from that tree. And then the other one was Emily Paris taking over as the Charm head coach GM role from Taylor Cummings. Taylor Cummings, she was Taylor's assistant at the championship series this past year. Taylor just had a baby, which I didn't even realize. And I'm assuming that had something to do with Taylor not being back around, which bums me out because Taylor Cummings is one of my favorite women's players of all time. But cool to see, I guess. We'll see what they do. Talking about player movement, they're about to have a crap ton of player movement getting ready for the championship series and then getting ready for the WLL season in spring. But anything to add to WLL? Just news stuff. And honestly, I didn't even really know who those people were until I was researching to talk about them now. So not majorly surprised that we don't have much to say. Maybe one day we will have a women's lacrosse expert on here to tell us more about it. But that is going to do it for this week. If you want to keep the conversation going, the best place to do that is the Lax Lifers Club. That is our community, and at its core, it is a free Discord where you can talk all versions of lacrosse with other lifers who care about the game as much as you do. If you want to go a step further, there are additional paid tiers that support the show and unlock things like episodes 48 hours early, exclusive hangouts, which, by the way, we will be doing one this weekend on Saturday for the... Oh, totally blanking off the top of my head. Totally blanking. It is the Saturday night game. It is...
Well, they're all Saturday night except for one.
Crap. You are right. It is the Philadelphia-Rochester game. I'm pretty positive. It's definitely not... Yeah, it's that game. Philadelphia-Rochester at 7 p.m. If you join, you will be able to participate. extra Discord roles and channels, and some merch that's only available to members. Totally optional, but is there if you want deeper access. All the details are linked in the show notes or in the description if you are watching on YouTube. Brandon, before we get out of here, man, what you got coming up this week?
I don't even know. I haven't even looked at the weekend. I genuinely don't know. It's, what is it, December 15th we're recording this, so there's just a lot of stuff, a lot of moving parts right now with Christmas and that type of thing. So hopefully something fun. I don't know yet. Well, I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, we don't like I said, we don't really have much going on this weekend. I think next weekend though is when we really kick off. And then I'm headed down to North Carolina. We should actually probably figure out about the show over Christmas, what we want to do. But yeah, we don't have too much going on this weekend. I don't know. Like I said, we'll be doing that watch along in the Discord. So people want to join and hang out. It'll be fun. We had fun last time. So as always, you can find us on social media. Brandon is at Hoot Sports Media, and I am Neil Barrett on all platforms. Wherever you're listening, make sure you are subscribed. And if you have a second to rate or review the show, it genuinely helps us more than you probably realize. But until next time, we will catch you in the comments.